Welcome back to Top 5. The episode begins immediately after the chilling revelation from episode 4. Andrei stands frozen, his chest heaving, still trying to process what Lila has just told him. He can feel his pulse pounding in his ears, each beat heavy with disbelief. Lila Delgado. Valeria's daughter. The very daughter of the woman who had torn his life apart and turned him into nothing more than a caged animal. How had he let himself fall for her? How had he let his guard down so completely? No, Andrei's voice cracks with a mixture of denial and heartbreak. He shakes his head, taking a step back from Lila as if distance could somehow shield him from the truth. You're lying. Lila doesn't move, her face unreadable, but there's a flicker of emotion in her eyes, guilt, regret, fear, it's impossible to tell. I'm not lying, Andrei, she says softly. I didn't want it to come out this way, but it's the truth. I'm Valeria's daughter. But I'm not like her. Her words are like poison, seeping into his veins, twisting his gut with nausea. Andrei looks around the jungle, feeling trapped, despite the vastness of the space. The towering trees and the seemingly endless horizon of greenery might as well have been the bars of a cage. His mind races, trying to make sense of everything, but it only leads him back to one question: was this all part of the plan? Was Lila's kindness, her strength, even her affection for him, was it all a lie? The emotions crash over him in waves: betrayal, anger, confusion, and worst of all, heartbreak. He had trusted her. He had felt something real with her. And now it was all tainted by the shadow of her mother's cruelty. Andrei clenches his fists, his knuckles widening as he fights to keep his voice steady. You led me on. You pretended to care, but you were just setting me up for her, weren't you? No. Lila's voice rises with sudden desperation, her calm facade cracking for the first time. I wasn't setting you up. I swear to you, Andrei, I didn't want this. I tried to protect you. I tried to keep you away from her, from all of this. Keep me away. Andrei's laugh is bitter, hollow. You're her daughter. Everything about you is tied to her. How the hell was I ever supposed to escape that? Lila steps toward him, but Andrei moves back, shaking his head. His mind is racing faster than he can keep up, flashes of memories invading his thoughts. Every look, every touch, every moment he had shared with her now felt like a sick game orchestrated by Valeria herself. Andrei, Lila pleads, her voice trembling with emotion. I am not my mother. I hate her for what she's done, to you, to me, to everyone. I've been trying to escape her control my whole life. Then why didn't you tell me from the start? Andrei's voice rises in frustration. Why keep this a secret? Why wait until now? Because I didn't want you to see me as just Valeria's daughter, Lila replies, her voice cracking. I wanted you to see me for who I really am. I wanted you to see me as someone who could help you, not someone tied to your pain. Andrei's heart twists painfully, torn between the depth of his emotions and the sharp sting of betrayal. I can't trust you, he says, his voice barely above a whisper, as if saying it aloud would make it any less real. I can't trust anything you've said. Lila opens her mouth to speak, but Andrei doesn't wait to hear it. The flood of anger and pain is too much. Without another word, he turns away and storms off into the jungle. His footsteps are heavy, fueled by the fury boiling inside him, crashing through the dense underbrush with no real direction, only a desperate need to escape. Andrei. Wait. Lila's voice echoes behind him, but he ignores it, pushing forward, determined to put as much distance between them as possible. The jungle swallows him up, the thick canopy overhead blocking out the sunlight, casting everything in shadow. His breath comes in ragged gasps, not just from exertion but from the weight of everything crashing down on him at once. He had trusted her. He had started to fall for her. How could he have been so stupid? As Andrei trudges deeper into the wilderness, his thoughts race uncontrollably, a whirlwind of images and memories blending together: Lila's face, her smile, the softness in her voice when she'd reassured him, the way she had seemed so strong in the face of danger. It had all felt so real. And now, it felt like it had all been part of some twisted game. The sound of the jungle around him fades into the background as his mind spirals further. He doesn't notice the subtle shift in the atmosphere, the way the trees seem to close in tighter, the air growing thicker. He's too consumed by his thoughts, too lost in the labyrinth of betrayal and anger to realize that he's no longer alone. Suddenly, a sharp rustle from the underbrush snaps him out of his thoughts. His body tenses, but before he can react, something hard slams into the back of his head. A searing pain shoots through his skull, and the world tilts sideways as he stumbles, crashing to the ground. His vision blurs, the edges of his consciousness fraying as the sound of footsteps surrounds him. Rough hands grab him, dragging him through the dirt. He tries to fight back, to scream, but his body feels disconnected, unresponsive. His vision fades to black. When Andrei awakens, he is disoriented, groggy, his body heavy as if weighed down by invisible chains. His head throbs, the pain pulsing with each heartbeat. Slowly, he becomes aware of his surroundings, the cold stone floor beneath him, the dim light casting long shadows in the room. His arms are bound, heavy metal cuffs biting into his wrists, and around his neck, a thick metal chain is bolted to the floor, its weight anchoring him in place. He tries to move, but every shift of his body sends a jolt of pain through him. His limbs feel weak, his vision still blurred from the blow. As he blinks, trying to clear his head, he hears voices, low, murmuring voices, distorted by the haze in his mind. Through the fog, Andrei's eyes focus on two figures standing at the far side of the room. One tall, commanding, with a presence that sends a shiver down his spine. The other, smaller, familiar. His heart lurches as he realizes who they are. Lila stands beside Valeria. The scene before him feels like a twisted nightmare, and for a moment, Andrei wonders if he's still unconscious, trapped in some fevered dream. But the cold, hard metal around his neck tells him this is all too real. Valeria steps forward, her heels clicking against the stone floor, each step deliberate, predatory. Her dark eyes gleam with amusement, a cruel smile curling her lips as she looks down at him. "Did you really think you could run from me, Andrei?" Her voice is low, soft, dripping with mockery. "How foolish you are. But then again, love does make people stupid." Andrei's mouth is dry, his throat tight. He tries to speak, but the words stick in his throat. All he can do is stare up at Valeria, the weight of her presence crushing him. Valeria crouches beside him, her fingers tracing the length of the chain around his neck. "You never stood a chance, you know," she says, her voice almost affectionate, as if speaking to a wayward pet. "I've been watching you, planning for this moment. I knew you would fall for her. You men always do." Andrei's mind reels, the horror of the situation sinking in. He had been played from the start. Every step of the way, Valeria had been pulling the strings, and Lila had been the bait. Valeria leans in closer, her breath warm against his ear. "You've been nothing but a pawn, Andrei. A means to an end. Love, trust, hope, they're all just tools for me to use." Andrei's heart pounds in his chest, a cold fury rising within him. He wants to fight, to scream, but the weight of everything, the betrayal, the chains, the powerlessness, leaves him paralyzed. Valeria straightens, her cruel smile never faltering. "I need you strong, Andrei," she says, her tone shifting to something darker, more ominous. "You're not done yet. We'll try again in a few days. And by then, you'll understand just how far this goes. Before Andre can respond, before he can process the full scope of her words, Lila steps forward. In her hand, she holds a syringe filled with a murky liquid. Her face is pale, her expression blank, but her hands tremble as she approaches. Andre's heart sinks as he realizes what's about to happen. "Lila, please," he croaks, his voice hoarse, pleading. Lila hesitates for a moment, her eyes meeting his. There's a flicker of something there, regret, guilt, sorrow, but it's fleeting. With a swift, practiced motion, she plunges the syringe into his arm. The liquid courses through his veins, cold and numbing. Almost immediately, Andre feels his body go limp, the last of his strength drained away. His vision blurs once more, the edges of the world fading to black. The last thing he sees before he loses consciousness is Lila's face, her expression unreadable, and Valeria's cold, satisfied smirk.